Hello. Yo, I forgot I was about to go live. I put the minute earlier. You have to type the things in. I think I did wrong. Boxing is straw. And I forgot what this is about. This is about the serious. I remember because I was writing into another thing to try to get people to come. I didn't even post it. But this is about slavery. To have once and for all a quality of fact treatment nature obligated to be able to counter such a thing. And how such obligations got away with being and having been unfulfilled. For example, how that too, the causes of that got away with being undiscerned. For example, everyone was blaming other things, others or selves. For example, to discern this, where and how, another variable slash S is involved, the breaching method slash S, that forced treatments of color. And so, where and how logic leaves out the increasing value of that to discern what American history is really about through what it is pretended to be about, so still with passions and emotions to prevent us from discerning that and speaking that which our founding parents actually left us to tell, which is about how they had to counter extort the other founding parents. And they had to force everyone to roles with what countries individually grouped and together. Still, they're fighting for unity and they leave out independence. Or they're fighting for independence and they're leaving out unity's simultaneous value. We're supposed to say on what is actually simultaneously recorded. These are tactically denatured identity grounds, identity of relationship to themselves. The parts of the species body, just like the parts of your body all have a semi-nature relationship to your complete identities, value slash value progression. That too simultaneously has a semi-nature relationship to that identity of relationship to itself. That is hyper simultaneous, that which is relevant to where positive or negative value nature progressions are caused by it, what it revealed. For example, certain types of seeds need to be planted in the spring. Exception nature, everything keeps demonstrating things as nature, but in those demonstrations keep going away, and by simultaneously they're increasingly easier to discern another way. Because everything stays about the simultaneous. Everything stays about the Trinity. Nothing is Boolean alone. Nothing, those are two invisible but still discernible identities of three. Just like the cell nucleus, cell body, cell wall. Identities of identities of relationship to the same identity of volume as its identity of relationship to itself, and as the value of that increasingly. So the cell bodies and the cell walls are shared too; they're touching each other, and the body of to the identity of sequence nature, distinctly taking the air, working with the air, and distinctly working with the elements, with the water and too, and with the earth, like with a plant. Buck sings Anthony, but call me Aunt. Don't say you can't. So, since everyone was kids, there's a certain type of victim predator that a breaching method made blame other things, others ourselves. That which is hyper evidential. For example, the real causes of where and how people are simultaneously stupid and or simultaneously genius that has prevented free speech regarding the revelations of actually inherent to where and how people make treatments and where they're making them from and how they're making them. So they have critical race theory relevant to where and how, and to where and to how. They have the sense and sensibilities of the locations of the ground that keep them criminally foreign influenced per the needs of when things play out, and they consider what they did, what to do. For example, with each age of fact treatment nature, they've been roles with the crimes, the people pretending to be against crimes, as a certain type of victim reaction, A through Z. That are all their. This is the most uncomfortable chair. That's just highway. Oh, after you sit on it for hours, no one's on here. So the slavery, to address this, what caused slavery in America? A method that propagated criminal insidiousness natures of name treatments, A through Z, of identity of a value treatments, A through Z, identity of locations, voices, value treatments, finite, active, progressive details, A through Z. Known things, invisible but still discernible, individually grouped and together, A through Z. They had all been employed by a breaching method that had already come from semi-ancient times before the modern colonies. Sources at the other end where they were using the colonies remotely. Remote control, like you would control a remote control plane. Vaccines, okay. I'll train. So the species body of volume. Then the sciences became criminally foreign influenced. Tricked, hurt, persuaded, forced, like off balance. In a fight, it didn't know. It got sucker punched. The actual natural identity of relationships we have to each other. And it hurt, locked, forced, and persuaded everyone to roles, needing to blame on other things, others, ourselves, through other motivations. The real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures in demonstration to all locations, areas, and states of the ancient republic and the sciences, the way they were supposed to be, how we think actually is being forced to be entertained, abridged, or they just steal our identity even further than how overtly / insidiously each person's identity. Each person is a nature. Each person is a sickly distinctly, but sickly distinctly and not sickly non-distinctly too. The victim of a certain method of identity theft / fraud / slander method. So we know that with the slavery came the torture also. And this is a slavery method again, too, against our founding parents. They had to hide their roles. Or if they spoke things that would, that were going to against those laws that were syntax possession, they would have been censed by the proverbial devil as what is greater than and more finite than that and or than an archetypal criminal enterprise, as we must conceive countries A through Z as, and where and how they've been abridged from that integrity since ancient times that could speak better and be led by that which is perfect, the history of humanity, the sciences, how we think. It is by how. 1/3. The one identity of hyper-simultaneous nature is also bound three ways, the same way, like, for example, it's manifest, cell body, cell nucleus, cell wall. It's manifest. What is positive or not, relative to the same thing or function and location and identity of value progression. A computer is about identity of value / value progression that has to mimic what we do and how we are, not invented but revealed. Individual, grouped, species, body, volume. 3, Trinity. Cell nucleus, cell body, cell walls together, Trinity. Independence and unity simultaneously. Hyper-invisible is in demonstration to us as a distinct identity of simultaneous nature. For example, as the sentence is a simultaneous nature distinct from this. And know how a verb could stand as a one-word sentence. And know how a subject is reliant upon a verb just to be a proper sentence, to be complete, simultaneous nature. So every simultaneous nature has a semi-nature relationship to that which is actually hyper-simultaneous, as that which is actually simultaneous everywhere at once. Boxing's two campus stunts with stolen name. Evolution science only feels a game /S, or we sense it and know something's wrong. Boxing is strong, but the species body longs, each single voice, the finite, the individual body, not denied free speech, and other pretended simultaneously is the breaching method. So we still have this slavery method, sickly non-distinctly against everyone, and sickly distinctly. Where it is very subtle, it is simultaneously overt / subtle, but has complete possession of all identity of the ground hierarchies, all identity of the ground individually grouped in together, having been lied to, individually grouped in together, having responded, valuing those lies as syntax nature. For example, for where and how forgiveness is important. Because to be the quality of fact-keeping nature, to make proper responses to what and how they used color forced with the law to distinctly hurt. They already had been perfected the method against the colonies that came here. That England doesn't even remember English properly. So they have to, countries A through Z. They came through campuses, child abused. Told to blame on other things, others, ourselves, the real causes of criminal insidiousness, predicate acts at all locations, areas, states. Criminal insidious nature's wrongdoers, wrongdoing. And where and how we are identity, that which the computers mimic. People at the computers' locations kept needing to hide lie progressions and preemptively. So acting arrays and then recording arrays as fake sides, fake motivations relative to instances being recorded that are being used to pretend illusions tied to sequence shifts rolls with the identity theft slash fraud slash slander method slash S, that everyone, because that was used remotely by a worse method than the roles that were maintained through other motivations, natures, needs, interests that are maintaining too the styles of identity theft, fraud, slanders. Though no torture and identity theft and torture and slavery roles, those five things go together. And so they have the Republicans and the Democrats recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. They use phrases like conservative and like liberal with physical delusions, but also with criminally foreign influence premises treatments simultaneously. I mean, with no, I mean, so it's like, and then they pretend that about other people and about each other using premises that way. And then they pretend it's personal if you respond to that, because that's the only thing they have to respond to. And then they have it, in other words, on their YouTube pages, on their Facebook pages, and the people who police them, they have them. In other words, they have readings of statutes. They've been readings of people's behavior that has them recorded consciously, haven't been hiding, using it as a tool to hide life progressions, hide their actually recorded natures and uses of them remotely, differentially, criminally foreign influence, but increasingly. So this is also tied to where into how with the education method we discern. So the person is shown, the person from the suburbs is shown that Native Americans, the American, is told that Native Americans and that Black people, relative to simultaneously the value of how the might actually we are capable of now, here and there, and everywhere as the species volume is, relative to where that is constantly and increasing in position upon Native Americans too, where Black is overtly / insidiously used formally, again in collusion with private overt criminal enterprises and a nature of criminal insidiousness inherent to the opinion styles, the conviction styles of identities and titles A through Z. Now, where to discern this is where and how they won't follow mandated law, and where and how those identity ground locations and names simultaneously are pretending other and having pretended other, having been roles with the worst natures of people and things, maintain the outcome / S too, and innocent people slandered. Identity theft, fraud, slanders every day in courts and police farms. The breaching method knew that modern countries A through Z would not be able to speak for the law, and they would have to pretend other. They knew every person would have to. They knew overt criminal enterprises would become manifest and be self-valued uses means by countries individually grouped and together on our own in collusion, needing to having pretended other that's used remotely. They've been separating the types of abuses of each age of fact treatment nature, relevant to where and how manifest are types of experts, types of training of them, types of responses to shortcomings and to apparent, what they call, positive signs in each branch's leadership, how they evaluate things. For example, beginning with before computers, it was a databases oriented method with a complete syntax possession It wasn't about who was going to have the courage to fight against a T-tax and do something like that as a group when they had, now they're going to have to put a fake narrative. What it really is about, in other words, it wasn't about, everyone, let's care about democracy and really do it like that. They didn't care about democracy. They were still entrenched with slavery. And when they fought against South with slavery, they still had roles with it. They still had roles with the breaching method, still had complete possession over all formal education, informal, for the method off the records, still having been blamed. What nature was demonstrating about it on other things other than ourselves. Because nature was demonstrating through negative value, nature, progressions, acts, nature, because it only demonstrates that way. We're automatically, the exception nature is where and how we are automatically temporary positive value nature. And relevant to where and how Earth's distinct, non-distinct, and simultaneous relationship to the rest of space/existence is distinct, non-distinct, and simultaneously also a relationship to the rest of hyper-existence, that which is more finite than the order of the finite, while as its body of volume, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously. And it is, while being and how being the order of the finite, incapable of being the order of what is active, but simultaneously, where and how we are active simultaneously, and where our progressive value is here now. So they set up in the suburbs, designed tactically denature identity of the ground, native pure, after they had already done this in levels before that. The Native Americans, that's what their history and dreams really tell, is that the ground below their feet was tactically denatured to cause negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, while simultaneously only affording positive value nature progressions, acts, and natures roles one way, tactical interior from nature. And that was used to keep roles with the complete possession of syntax nature, of the identity of everybody individually grouped together, blamed on other things other than themselves, even when correctly, no one could discern the breaching method. Database type, ancient republic. So slavery is, I forgot, there was a worse start, and then I carried it on. So I'm gonna end this video. I'm gonna do a different one, but I was just a little slow. That's what it is. Those 5 parts, we're not gonna separate them because the method is not just right there. It's an increasing value that is increasingly relative to where and how people make opinions. Oh, we'll settle it in the court then. You can't, the courts that have been involved with evidence is planted at locations and that have affected the wrong outcome in courts. That's part of the conversation here. And so they've been exploiting exceptions and exception nature, criminally foreign influence readings of statutes and precedents, increasingly self-valued, having been too, because that's only capable of being now. The same way they have locations, areas, in states of modern countries that are only capable of producing predators because of the collusion/S on off the campuses of each age and nature. And the effective method that had sustained, perfected how to hide between motivations, natures, needs, interests, A through Z, all ulterior than its own, but kept needing to hide the same sequence shift, fine, active, progressive illusions against complete strangers as those senses, as the defenses of needs and means of the nature too. Criminal insidiousness nature is a tool, weapon, breach, and screen simultaneously. I'm not a lawyer. They also fabricate audio and video with the interbranch originally still. That's also evidence. That's also hyper recorded. And still, how they got and get away with teaching, with hiding that. Their narrative is really about how and why they care about money. I have to eat some way. Why being a lawyer then? You know what I mean? Trento, I can't call you back because they use that method. They'll pretend I was harassing you. You made up things with them. That's what they did with the principal sex offender who was involved with more, with some drugs and medicines crimes with the Leahy family and with some prosecutors and judges involved with Hartford courts and the Britain Superior Court and with the FBI. I should just say this real fast or what? Someone needs to get me them for interbranch have been switching forged names, preventing writing because these are their courts that were their family members and information roles with investigators, roles with uses of, like apartments and places next to the campuses where they have training of police forms or what, and the leasing agents and their family members involved into campuses with identity theft, fraud, slanders, and slavery/torture method against everyone sickly, distinctly, don't forget. So we're not going to compare unless we're going to be focusing on comparing for the people most forsaken. So we're going to draw, for example, that's why it's drawn in the Projects cartoon with Little Rap Guy and friends. Are those people inside there? And now everyone, if you're going to be honest about who's inside those buildings, they want us to go, me and everyone else, to go a lot harder than they're letting us go regarding the revelations, inherent, right, per uses of, not just per uses of it, then for the per defenses of the value of it, of the significance of it, that prevent at locations the quality of fact, human nature necessary to speak and to understand, let alone to have understood actually what our founders left us most critically to defend. And how? See, everything was abridged. Everything was delayed. Justice was delayed, to be denied, to be trained, to screen what would use that actually while being trained and only capable of blaming out other things, others ourselves. Or everyone just attached to fake words, fake ties to other fake sequence, value relationships. So if one tries to report things over the phone, the police forms replace audio and video with fabricated audio and video, and with the other branches of government, because they were already, since they were kids, victims' roles with criminally foreign influence, predicate acts, and natures of criminal insidiousness, natures of instances, and of wrongdoers' roles, and of killers' roles, use roles with people on off the body don't respond, roles with the news articles with crimes, where they're being used to further them against other people and put fake sides and cover up all the lie progressions tied to how they've been painting fake arrays and lying about sequence before people come into contact with other people. They've been offensively planting evidences, the 5 identities of the ground, roles. And then all exceptions, exception nature, and demonstration of the same thing. The exceptions, exception nature with the branches of government are also kept when they are not criminally foreign influenced into the people with them and the locations. All exceptions, exception nature tied to them, keep it that way. In many pray. So a sophistication never spoke for the law. A certain type of victim predator logic that those killers have, and pretending only to be counters to such. It is all offensively in collusion with that which is on off the campuses of the youngest ages. No one realizes it. All exceptions in exception nature are only their needs to discern. And having discerned, where and how they are kept needing to hide the same final act of progressive lies. Self-valued roles with science is abridged and pretending other, and how they get away with it. Inclusion at all locations. Bunch of fake people want to fight, argue about what what's his name? Albert Einstein is about. They're leaving because and their styles in nature are only to prevent the quality of fact human nature proper as scientific process, and which is led by the actual identity of relativity, that which is actually discernible as to it is invisible but still discernible. That's how it is functional. Thank you, everybody. Vaccines. It teaches things.